You go up there, don't just, oh. It's being live streamed, got it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I've been for the last 15 years.
That's where you hunt in that area.
Yeah, we're northeast. Once you get hit just before Sioux Lookout at community called Hudson.
Right.
On Lac Seul. And we're 7 hours up the.
What area is that, Steve? Is it 2?
4.
4?
Pickle Lake is 2.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah. And it's funny, on the way back, it's 55B, and we used to go to up by Armstrong, Graham Road. It's 55A over there, so that's a big area for hunting.
Yeah.
Just because we're now live?
Okay, sorry.
No, it was a good road report. And welcome council to this meeting of August 8th. And our only meeting in August. And so on the note, we call our meeting to order.
I have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Kelly and Councillor Champagne. So the draft agenda presented to council and dated the 8th day of August 2023 be adopted as prepared.
On favor? Oh, Carrie, thank you so much. And so we have Councillor Champagne who's online, virtual, and we see him well and hear him well. So that's all good. Accepting the minutes of the previous meetings.
A mover and a seconder, please. The Mayor Riekers and Councillor Trahan. That the minutes of the council meeting held July 11th, 2023 be adopted as circulated.
On favor? Any business arising from the minutes? There being none, declarations of conflict of interest. There.
One for 12B. Bylaw 2023.
Mayor keeps the form, just to say, it was nice to see the pictures about the road race, and especially the one where the people are seated on the hill in front of our minister's office. I thought it was a really good.
They were fast.
They were fast, eh?
But I didn't think they were going that fast, but they were moving. Yeah.
It's additional work for us for sure, but it's a good work. Good.
Yeah, it's good exposure.
Good exposure, good activity to encourage these.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything negative about it. I think that all the residents around
People are happy.
they were happy to see it, a race go through, I guess, or it's good. I think there was quite a few bikes.
Oh, yes. Cool.
Yeah, the park,
I don't know how many bikes there was, but I was honest here.
I know Friday morning, the parking lot over in Corbeil Hall, the parking lot was full.
Yeah. How many bikes?
Yeah.
360. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, there you go.
So Deputy Mayor Riekers declared a conflict on item 12B, which is bylaw number 2023-33. Is about to close and convey a personal land on Cal Road due to the property being discussed as near their property and may affect property.
Thank you so much. Chair's comments while I make, so it's all done. And on that note, we're ready for a delegation to council. And this evening, we're very happy to welcome Mr. and Mrs. Berry. Larry Berry, I believe, will provide the comments, and but you can both come forward to this table if you'd like, right here. That's it. Have a seat, and you can bring your chair over if you'd like. Just go forward. Welcome. I think Madam Clerk explained to you the process, and so 10 minutes to outline what it is, and then we have an opportunity to ask questions. We don't render any conclusions or decisions. We typically turn it back to our staff to examine the issue and then bring it back to us for recommendation. So with that said, please do proceed.
Okay, so we moved to 277 Astorville Road. And when we were looking at the property description, it showed our property extending into the road. And I thought maybe that was a mistake. It was kind of odd. And when I was trying to research it online, I saw several maps that showed different positioning. So I had Paul Goodrich, he's a surveyor. He came out and he looked at all the markers in the property. And he could find the markers for the adjacent properties, and he highlighted them for us in the back. He said, your markers are going to be out somewhere near the middle of the road. And he suggested that we get that changed so that, because he said that there was an assumed responsibility. He just mentioned that. He said not uncommon for that to happen. But that is not a good test to have the decision for us. So if there was an accident, what they do is they just threw everybody that's good respond, try and get rid of everything good. So we're asked as much as possible that you could assume that piece of property that would normally be.
Okay, those are the comments. I think it's very straightforward and on that note, any comments or questions before we move forward?
The only,
Councillor Champagne?
yeah, I didn't hear a word they said at all, so you'll have to refer.
Okay, I was wondering about that. Okay, so basically they own, is it 277 Astorville Road? And part of their property, I won't use the word encroaches, but it extends into the middle of the road, Astorville Road. And so basically, they would like some resolution, and the surveyor, Mr. Goodrich, examined the property and suggested that they bring this forward to council and to have the matter resolved, maybe where they would hand over the property to the municipalities. And so is that okay? Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay. So any questions or comments? There being none, I would recommend that we turn it over to our staff. Okay, yeah.
I was making some notes. Sorry, Larry, I'm Steve Sherman. How many acres do you have on your property?
The property extends into the.
Okay. Just 1 acre and that's it, right? Okay. You just purchased her just recently, I believe, right?
It'd be 5 years to September.
What, 5 years?
Yeah, right before the pandemic.
Okay. And when did you do this?
We learned about when we bought it, but we couldn't do anything about confirming it until after the pandemic and after we could find somebody that could survey it. So that was in the fall. Yeah, it's fall, it's past fall.
Okay, and you said the survey person was, or company was?
Oh, good.
That's right, sorry.
Yeah, we talked to one of your staff here.
Okay.
He knows Paul.
Yeah.
And he suggested that.
Okay.
So Councillor Champagne, did you hear that?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, so on that note, if everyone's okay, the recommendation would be that we bring in, turn it over to the staff to examine the matter, back with resolution for council. That'd be all right with you, Mr. and Mrs. Berry,
That's great.
and with council? All right, fine.
How long would this take?
Well, we'll be meeting in September. I suspect I should.
It'd be a report to council for September 12th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We move forward with the committee Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. Councilor Champagne, Deputy Mayor.
The only thing I can speak about is Denise Drive and Astor Street is done and it looks really, really good. I see you got some emails already on it. And they're right now, as of last week, they were shaving Grooves Road and doing some maintenance on that part of it. So I think it's going well. Jason, I believe, like I say, I've been away for a week there, so I haven't seen what's going on. So that's about all I have for now, but we need a little bit of work done on Grooves and the ditches are getting done now. So we'll take a look at it, I guess, and Maris gets back and Antoine will get something done.
They certainly, I've gone to see Guru on a number of occasions, and I think the work is terrific. They've really worked hard to clean it, and there's been a lot of work. Councillor Champagne, I think everyone will be very pleased with the work, so well done. Plus the paving of the subdivision, it's excellent, just excellent. So I think overall, excellent work. I mean, you can't, it was by so fast. I mean, it's almost over and so terrific amount of work. So well done.
I just want to say also is that was Pioneer that did the work. And they did the second part of Astorville Road. And I just want to say between this job and the last job, Pioneer's actually done some really nice work. So not to take anything away from Miller either, but Pioneer's done some really good work in our community. So a little shout out for them.
Yeah. Well said. No community emergency management committees, fire and emergency services, you meet next week. Planning advisory committee. Okay, so we had, we turned it over to both yourself, Councillor Kelly and Deputy Mayor Woodacres for comments.
Good meeting. We have a lot on the agenda, but main highlights are obviously the Hemlock Island, which is pretty straightforward. That was Lakeshore Laws. But the big news is the development going on Centennial. With also, I think it's another 12 to 15 acres held back in advance.
Do you want to just describe it as slightly?
Sure. Basically, it's on the far corner from the gas station. And it's basically the Calendar Animal Hospital. Now, in fairness, I'm not sure whether it's a satellite or the hospital, the main hospital itself, but there's a hospital plus there's kennels going in and they're far enough away that would bother nobody in the neighborhood. But for economic development, it's a real plug for East Ferris. And I mean, that corner is standing vacant for a long time. And as I say, there's still another, I think, 12 to 14 acres held in advance. But development starting in the area, and it's industrial, but it's necessary because I've heard that people in Deep River either have to go to Mattawa or Ottawa or North Bay to get help for their pets.
Yeah, for sure.
Demands are that high, and there's a shortage of veterinarians. So it's needed, and we know from the two hospitals in Calendar, they're both busy and they're full. So. Oh, it's a win-win deal.
Oh, it's a great situation to be in Miss Valley, and it's you know what, I bring my dogs to Calendar Animal Hospital, and it's just a 5-star operation.
Yeah, and the access, just letting people know, is going to be off Centennial, not off 17, which will, because that would be.
Yeah, it'd be a lot more permits.
This is coming out of the driveway. So it's been moved, and MTO are fine with it. And Meadow Conservation are as well, so it's a win-win deal. So it's great, yeah, really good news. Thank you.
I thought it was good thinking as well. I don't know how this occurred, but adding the H for the holding. I suspect that was part of the meeting and you brought that forward so that I suspect that was good move. Well done.
I find we've got a really good committee, excellently led, and legal opinions and so forth from Greg are invaluable, but everybody's on board and the committee gets along really well, which is nice. Don't you agree, Warren? Yeah. I'm glad you said yes. Little irony there.
Know what they're talking.
No, because we've had a lot on our plate the last couple of years. really, so good to see.
So I think we have a couple of recommendations.
We do.
At least, yeah.
I have a mover and a seconder, please. Counselor Kelly and Counselor Trahan. Whereas no public input was received at the public meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee held July 19th, 2023, and whereas has been made by Todd and Tanya Burlington to close and purchase the original shoreline road allowance abutting 966 Hemlock Island. And whereas bylaw number 2015-35 provides policies and procedures for the disposition of shoreline road allowances in the municipality of East Ferris. And whereas the request would comply with the policy set out in bylaw number 2015-35. We hereby resolve that council approves the recommendation from the Planning Advisory Committee meeting held July 19th, 2023, under resolution 2023-28. And approve the request made by Todd and Tanya Burlington to close and purchase the original shoreline road allowance abutting 966 Hemlock Island and proceed in accordance with the applicable regulations, policies, and procedures set out in bylaw number 2015-.
All in favor? All carried. Thank you so much. The second motion.
Where the seconder, please.
Sure.
Counselor Kelly and Counselor Champagne. Whereas no public input was received at the public meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee meeting held July 19th, 2023 for file number C 2023-03. 1000328-150 Ontario Inc. for lands described as concession 13, part lot 14, RP NR 83, part 1, on what is locally known as Centennial Crescent. And whereas the landowners applied to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2021-60 to rezone a parcel of land from the existing rural zoning to a general special zone and a general commercial special holding zone. And whereas the application is being made in conjunction with the consent to sever application that would seek to create one new lot on the subject lands. And whereas the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement 2020. And whereas the application is in conformity with the policies contained within the official plan for the municipality. We hereby resolve that council approves from the Planning Advisory Committee meeting held July 19th under resolution number 2023-29.
All in favor? C'est bon. Carried. Thank you so much. Excellent. That's it. So
That's it.
before we do adjustment, there were just the minutes there for people to read. Well, any comments? No.
Just a continuation of the Centennial Crescent, saying that the retaining lands are going to be, they're zoned commercial, but they're going to use a mutual driveway on agreement. So that's, once again, it's off of Centennial on 17.
So we come to recreation parks and culture, just to say that we had an excellent meeting. I was very delighted. The committee had requested, thank you very much, Mr. McCarthy. The committee had requested that we do a tour of all of the recreational facilities of the municipality, so parks and outdoor spaces as well. And I think everyone concluded the tour by saying, what a diverse, decentralized community. We didn't realize we had a park on Quaker Road, one out on the Swanson Park Road. And so the general consensus, or even a private beach, not everyone, it was surprising that not everyone was familiar with the facilities and the amenities that the municipality has. And so I think it was very informative, was very good. And we finished with looking at the South Shore boat launch, the work that's being done there. And as well, we went into the community center to see the kitchen. And so all very, very good. So that was, so basically we had a brief meeting. This is a month. If any of you are familiar with anyone in our community that should be named to our Sports Hall of Fame, everything is online on our website, municipality. The application date goes to the end of August. And so basically, I think there's maybe one or two applications that have been received, or nominations, I should say, for the Sports Hall of Fame. And then we have also the annual sports recognition. So the Sports Hall of Fame is for eternity. Their name remain in the Sports Hall of Fame forever. The annual is where we bring annual recognition. And the criteria are slightly different. And so again, here it's till the end of August. So if you know of anyone that you believe has merit or should be recognized, would be the time to do so, have them with the form and submit them to the municipality. So there was also the volunteer recognition. We'll recall that the council had passed a support for a slate of volunteers in our community. A great presentation has been prepared and it's being planned for the early fall. And I think the idea was to do an event potentially tied to council, a meeting just maybe before the council meeting. And so that's underway, the planning for that. The final item, and tonight we have a resolution for that. The municipality has, it was under Councillor Champagne, I believe we had passed an advertising program for the community center, encouraging staff, if they could, to sell advertising in both the curling club and the community center to bring in revenue. And there has been recommendations that have come forward, in fact, from the past meetings with the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Committee, that we expand that to maybe, for example, tennis courts. And sometimes you see tennis courts that have like a sign or a flag or something inside with it, or even our pickleball courts. And so we don't know what that looks like. We're simply making a recommendation, and the idea is to turn it over to staff for them to examine what other advertising opportunities are out there for us tied to our recreational amenities. And so we don't want to become a billboard. That's not the idea, but we believe that there may be some best practices or examples in other communities that could fit our community. So tonight there is a resolution to that effect. That actually concludes my report. And so if there's no further question, we can proceed with the resolution.
Seconder, please, Councillor Trahan, Roy Akers. Whereas the Recreation, Parks and Culture Committee recommends that council extend the advertising program to locations outside of the East Ferris Community Center, such as municipal parks. Be it hereby resolved that council approves of this recommendation.
On favor? C'est bon, carry. Thank you so much. With that said, we go to Economic Development Committee, Deputy Mayor, Mr. Akers.
Yes, we have a meeting on July 26th, so we're bringing forward two recommendations for resolutions today. And one would be auditing the wayfinder signs just to make sure that they're up to date. And also discuss, because some of the sign posts, the posts are getting quite full. So wanted to audit and review that program. And then also talking about the trade show, putting out an RFP. Karen Jones, an associate, has done a wonderful job in the past 8 years, but we thought it was due diligence to put it out to see what other services were out there. As well, over the summertime, we have some homework. So one of our action plans was if there was an economic development issue that we thought should be brought forward as a delegation to one of the conferences. So people are looking at the area and also at the strategic plan that was developed, and to see if there's any delegations that they would bring forward, see if council would like to bring it forward to as a delegation. So we're also looking at linking East Ferris to the North Bay Film Portal. And that was recommended by Dominique Ballot, who's with the Ministry of Northern Development. Greg and Guy, I can't remember his last name. I knew that, okay. Are looking at funding an intern for economic development. So looking at funding through the Community Investment Initiative. So those are the highlights of that.
Questions or comments?
Active. It's good to see, very active.
What would the intern, what would that position entail?
Well, we have different programs, so like something we wanted to develop a booklet for tourism for East Ferris. So that would be one program that is, and then looking at other programs that is too much for the staff, right? So things forward. So if you have any suggestions, discussion from council.
It's one. When I was on the economic, we talked about At one time there was where, Wheelers was, so there was a sign there. So we had a sign where different, venues are in the municipality. So, then it might be an idea. It's a couple billboards, one in Corbeil, one in Asheville, to show where, you know, different highlights of tourism or other areas that, you know, walking paths to, you know, different stores or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's something we may want to balance and see if that's fits the criteria or not.
I mean, you can even have those QR codes where it could take you to a website that we could update. That billboards are kind of static, so, and websites are.
Just an idea.
Like it's advertising. That's like-
Well, and.
I think they did, eh? I think they did. Yeah.
Correct.
So.
Well, and it was, yeah, but, you know, having the charging stations outside.
Yes.
I mean, you're there for a while, so to know that you could walk over and play pickleball, if you have your stuff in the back of your car, or the 11:13 to get, you know, a pizza from. Sitting there for a long time.
Not gonna happen.
You're not charging your car?
I can't afford one of those.
At one of our conferences, the hotel that we stayed in, they had a large pad. They just tore off the sheet and said, here's a map of the area.
Yeah.
And here's points of interest.
Yeah.
Including businesses, but also walking trails and so forth. And that's something that you fit in cooperation with, like Boye Store here, or, you know, the big gas station, Fresh Mart and so forth. And it's not expensive.
Yeah.
Because it's basically a paper pad.
Yeah.
And here you go.
Whenever you produce a sign, you probably do a mini, it's like.
Exactly. And you know, it was Wheelers. And a lot of small towns, there is a sign as you enter the small town. Here's what's available in the town. And you stop and, you know.
Yeah, you're
Anyway.
skidoo trails to.
But I think it's important to let people know that East Ferris is open for business.
Right. Exactly.
That's the message you want to get across.
Yeah.
We have land available and we have services. Anyway.
Great ideas, and our staff, you know, work hard, so we can't get to all these projects, so we're in order to do all of those and organize it so that it can be.
Might do something too, like our small businesses in our community. They want to, like, we're already on the website through the business department, so we need to also put something on there too. Additional advertising.
Yep, exactly.
No, I agree with that, promoting small businesses. That's very important. We've got a lot of talent in our municipality. It's time to, you know, help them out too at the same time and show what we have.
Agree.
For me, a quick question?
Sure, and then Greg, I think.
Oh, yes, go ahead, and then I'll.
You're talking about, we're just exploring the option, the possibilities of whether the program would fit for us. We're not, before we would have to make a formal application, it would come back to you, because we would have our own financial contributions to do that. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that any formal application, we need to be approved by council before we went ahead with it.
Yeah, just again, it's just ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think sure, yes, well said. All in all, a good discussion. For me, just want to come back to the film, Councillor Champagne.
Yeah, it's nothing against Greg, but I didn't hear a single word he said, but it's all right. You can do that after.
He just said it would come back to council. If there is an application that goes forward, we would see it before it moves forward.
Okay.
Nothing, yeah. But on that note, let's all speak loud. And you come across as very loud, so that's a good reminder to do. Just on the film portal, I think that's a wonderful idea, and to thank Madame Malou for bringing it forward. Could we first give it a, like, not just a link to the, could we give it a page, like, I don't know, something that gives a look to East Ferris film activity?
Yeah, there's lots of options with it. So what some other municipalities do is they have their own landing page.
Yes, correct.
That highlights some of the unique benefits to their community, and then they make it to the central database for locations. And I would envision us doing something similar.
Perfect, okay.
So, and when, Madame Marlowe was talking about it, she was talking about, you know, like head of cattle, like can be something that they're looking for, or, you know, waterfront, or a driveway, or like any kind of thing that they come and they take a picture of it and they use it in film industry. So they've got a wide range of needs, I guess, so.
Yes, so on that note, it's interesting, well done, and so we have two resolutions to put forward. Any discussion, we can discuss the resolutions after they're, let's put them forward individually, discuss them, pass them, and then talk it. So
I have mover and a second. Councillor Kelly and Deputy Mayor Reyes. Whereas the Economic Development Committee recommends to council that the committee conduct or direct staff to conduct an internal audit inventory of the business signage program, be it hereby resolved the council approves of this recommendation.
So before we vote on it, an internal audit of a signage program would be, if we just define it, would be to see where we're at, how the signs are holding up. Do we need to buy more signs? Do we need to, I don't want to put words in your mouth, I just want to define it a bit here, what it would entail. Are you comfortable with it?
No.
Okay,
Like to me, if you're gonna do an inventory of them, it's how many posts we have, where are they located, what signs are on which posts. Beyond that, I'm not quite sure what the committee wants.
okay. So if we had to bring some definition to it, was there further discussion at the meeting that you can provide to help bring definition to what the mandate would be?
Right, when I was looking at them, and driving around and looking at them, I was going, you know, is that business still there?
Oh, yeah, okay.
So do we look at that? Like, or are they businesses, like businesses come and they go, right? So are they all businesses that are still active in East Ferris? So that was my one concern. Does that make sense? Okay.
Could another, not a opportunity, as we do an audit, to see if there are opportunities for further posts elsewhere in the municipality? Is that something that, I don't know, as we have new businesses, or maybe we've not tapped into all of them, is there an opportunity for more? Is that something that would be of interest? Yeah.
One thing for council's info is we sold those signs at cost,
Yeah,
no problem. The posts were at our cost. So I don't want to say the deal was, but the understanding was once they buy it, it just remains there forever,
Oh,
right?
okay.
If a business doesn't exist, I don't think they're gonna care. The sign's not up anymore. But once that sign's up there, it wasn't like it was a 5-year, then you have to repay.
No.
It was up there.
Mhm.
So in one way, looking back on it now, I would say $100 was pretty cheap for a lifetime of advertising.
Mhm.
Right? It doesn't mean we can't come out with a program, like something it's fairly loose, I guess, is what I'm saying. If someone calls now, we sell them a sign at cost. It goes up and that's it. There's no agreements, nothing's provided. It's a lifetime. So if council wants to look at it and say, well, there should have been more parameters around it of, you know, you pay for your sign and then every so many years it renews, or, you know, something like that, just to let council know there's nothing for them beyond paying the sign.
but certainly for me, it's not about saying, we should have, on the contrary, it's been a great program, very successful.
Yep.
It's very well done, quality sign, on the contrary. So it would be just to make sure, I think it's a valid question. Are they all still valid? Are they still in operation? I mean, I suspect yes, but
Yeah, I'll mention the council, one business just came forward and bought like 10 signs because it was so cheap at $1,000 or whatever, how many they bought, but that ends up a lot of space on posts.
yeah,
So when you look at it that way, everybody did that because the price is so cheap to buy a sign.
yes.
You can, every business, if they say I want 5 or I want 10, quick enough, you don't have a post left.
So maybe we need to bring
Well,
it in a
I-
bit, now that it's going well.
So that's just for council's info. Like, I'm not sure if you do want us to put something around, parameters around it, but
Well, we don't want, I would say personally, I mean, I hadn't thought about this issue since, but I don't know if council was comfortable with it, but I don't think it would hurt to look at, how do we maintain it? How do we enhance it? How do we make sure that it remains, good program?
Why don't we
Great.
take a look other municipalities to do the same and see what they do.
Yeah, I think audit is. Sorry, Councillor Champagne.
Instead of reinventing the wheel, maybe maybe they have something in place already.
Go ahead.
Two things. One is, we could reassess the quality of the signs and how they're stacked up. The other thing that comes to mind is to enhance the service that the signs provide, which would maybe bring in a little bit of revenue, is to put a kilometer. In other words, here's the business, 3 kilometers going that way. Right now, they're just directional signs. And now we say it's that way and it's 3 clicks.
Mhm.
Just to enhance the quality of the sign. No big deal.
And maybe it ties into what we just talked about, these, what we just described, when you remember, yeah. I mean, it could also tie into that to some extent, right? That's what we're trying to do is maybe expand the.
We always did charter general for that was there. And it was emblematic of what was available in East Terrace and adjacent communities as well. Because I know there was a couple of, there's an abattoir and so forth that were there, won't mention any names, but it was on the sign as well. And that's fine because it was once again revenue for Wheelers, but we could do the same.
There's no urgency on this. This is not an urgent matter.
It's just thoughts.
These are just thoughts. So we could remove the word audit maybe?
Now that we've had a discussion, it's fine.
It's fine, yeah, okay. If everyone's comfortable, that's the spirit. It's longer term, it's an opportunity to examine, to review, make sure if there's best practices out there that we can look to it. So with that thought, with that definition, is everyone in favor? Please raise your hand. They've all carried. Thank you so much. Okay, so resolution number 2.
I'm gonna move in a seconder, please. Councillor Sahin and Councillor Champagne. Whereas the Development Committee acknowledges that Karen Jones Consulting has and continues to do a wonderful job on the planning and facilitation of the annual trade show. And whereas the municipality as a public entity is fiscally responsible to the community and should periodically review its contracts for the long-term financial health of the municipality. And whereas the Economic Development recommends to council that an RFP process be undertaken for the 2024 municipal trade show with parameters of the RFP forthcoming. Be hereby resolved that council approves of this recommendation.
Any comments or questions on this item before we proceed to vote?
Sorry. Do we have any dates or anything when the RFP is going to come out or anything, or is it still in
Yeah,
thinking process here?
yeah, like that was included in the minutes from the meeting.
I think we were going to just make sure that council was okay if we move forward with it. And then we were going to decide October, so with your approval, in October, put together an RFP for it. For Greg would probably. Yeah, and then have it, there was timing with this, but so we really wanted to that we had the RFP out by October so that we can decide by December so that they can start planning by January for the trade show. Does that make sense?
I think you would need the planning of the trade show first, so that if somebody's going to put an RFP in, they actually know what they're actually putting an RFP in for the parameters of the show. So if the trade show is going to stay the same of this year, then that's your parameters of your trade show, and then that's what you're going to go out and put out to businesses, and that's where the businesses are going to put in their tenure or whatever to do the trade show. Have to do that.
We were sort of deciding, we were thinking in discussion to do it kind of reverse of what you're saying.
Okay. Well, then we'll.
My impression, if I may, Deputy Mayor Ruiz, I believe it's just because you want an indication if we're in support of going to an RFP process.
Right.
Because we have not done so since maybe at the beginning we had, I don't know.
First year only. Well, we had that in my economic, we asked for an RFP
Okay,
to move forward, so they're moving forward
yeah.
on an RFP, but the thing is, yeah, so I'm in agreement with it.
Yeah, but then after that, yes.
the process. I'm pretty sure Greg will have it straightened out.
Yeah, you're all set. It's a contract for how much is it?
No, so I mean, it's no information, right? So we spent 15,000 on a contract. It's been the same value since day one. Never had a price increase. So a way you can do it is actually stipulate a budget and say, we're putting out a request for tender for someone to run a business networking trade show. The budget's $15,000. You come and tell us what your idea is for a trade show. And you pick the best, the best proposal, basically, right? If you're gonna put exactly, we want X amount of booths, drapery, everything to look like what it does today, that's a tender. Because you're stipulating exactly what you want from them. Right? We're kind of looking to switch it up a little bit, but the whole theme still has to be a trade show. That's for business networking with a bit of community, you know, stuff for children, that kind of thing. You tell us what you want to do for $15,000. And you see what comes forward. And that's where people get creative,
Yeah.
but you stipulate in advance what the budget is. Or you can do a range, right?
I can make a comment. Yeah, if I make a comment, I agree 100% with Jason's saying. You just put the parameters out there, you put in a dollar amount and you tell us what you're gonna do for it. Then then the committee sits down and takes a look at the whole situation. I agree with that.
An RFP also leaves less room for human error on the side of staff, I would say, because you put a tender out, you've got to have all specifications there.
Okay.
So if you say we want drapery, well, someone can look at that and have white sheets. And the other one has gold frilled draperies we've had.
Yeah.
You have to know it's gotta be gold, this, every specification, just like when you put a truck out.
Yeah.
Every specification, because if not, they look to cut corners on because the lowest price gets the job, right? An RFP is a little different where you say, this is our budget. We want the biggest bang for the buck. We want all these kind of pieces. Be creative, come forward, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Kind of like you would with a website.
Yeah.
You say, come forward with it.
Mhm.
What's the
Present it.
design? Present it. What tools will it have? What online portals will it have? That kind of thing, right? So those are ways of. But the design of the RFP is where maybe the committee can say, here's some of the parameters, maybe, right? Like here. So, and it gives a bit of a guidance to whoever's gonna bid on the job, right?
I see a lot of heads going like this. I think we like that idea. Do you want to read the words again? And I'm just to make sure it captures that essence.
Yeah.
And just so I can clarify one point, Mayor Rochford, 15,000 is what we paid the consultant.
Mhm.
That's not the total cost of the
Yes, I
trade
was
show.
thinking, it's more like one.
Let's just say the cost is about 30
Okay. Yeah.
total, and after you net any revenues for booths and all that, the cost was about $17,000.
Okay.
Greg, is what we budget? Yeah,
I'll read the whole resolution again. Right, the Economic Development Committee, acknowledges that Karen Jones Consulting has and continues to do a wonderful job on the planning and facilitation of the annual trade show. And whereas a municipality as a public entity is fiscally responsible to the community and should periodically review its contracts for long-term financial health of the municipality. And whereas the Economic Development Committee recommends to council that an RFP process be undertaken for the 2024 municipal trade show with parameters of the RFP report.
So if we're comfortable with those words, is that okay with you? That's all good. The discussion is okay. Yeah. Okay, all in favor? C'est bon, Carrie, thank you so much. So it'll be exciting when we get back.
Exactly.
Is that the end of the report?
I think so, yes.
Yes. No striking committee, library board? None? Any comments? Yes, you had some. Do you have any comments?
Well,
Yes, this would be a place to, even though there's no report, if you'd like to make some comments.
Is that okay?
Yes, it is appropriate. Yeah.
Number one, as it has been mentioned, but there is a paddleboard, that's a new addition to the new paddleboard for loan, so. And I think on their Facebook page, they have demonstrations on how and blow them up. So the other thing that we were discussing, and it's a new idea or a new tax idea, is having a youth leadership so to discuss programming for the youth in East Ferris. And so I went through the library board for that because they already have programming for youth but they wanted to get input from the teen, preteens and teenagers directly. So we're just in beginning stages. Little discussion.
So youth is it 14 or 12 or just the 18 or what would be not necessarily?
Well, we were throwing out a lot of ideas, so maybe having 14 plus as the leaders to help bring up ideas for children 9 to 12, right? Or and for themselves. So just to generate ideas and to also have leadership and mentorship. So having people from council would like to be involved and help, guide discussion with that. So, yeah.
Any comments on any, had you completed?
Yes.
Any comments on those remarks? It's excellent. I'm sure community safety and well-being plan. That had been identified by in the surveys that there was a lack of activities for that age group. So it's good that you're tackling that you've taken that on. So I think it goes beyond obviously the library. It could be, it could be so many things. It could, I don't know if they have cadets in firefighting. It could be that. It could be, so it could be. So, I think they have it in policing. So I don't know to what extent they think they could be beyond, but it's certainly something to be explored and to examine how we could bring it up forward in our community. So,
Yeah,
right.
so we're just starting with the library because they have programming and then see where it goes. So.
Bon. Okay, well, that brings us to any further questions before we move on? Not the library, not the bar. Police Services Board, I was happy to learn that with respect to the policing of the traffic sign, it is in person. And so Inspector McMullen has confirmed that it is in person, that they will monitor the people that do the red lights at the corner of Highway 94 and Highway 11. So we did get that feedback from him.
And then also is that I think the question came up with hours of patrol in our roads, and it is captured.
Yes.
So.
No, it's not. So it's.
Back in 2020, November 2020, you had they captured and they gave you a report with OPP hours. So even if contract policing, they're always captured and they can capture. And so if you ask for it, you can get it. They will capture the hours when the cruisers are in the in the municipality. So it's captured even by investigations too. So if there's a serious investigation, they do capture how many hours that are actually put into the investigation within the municipality. So they'll be able to capture the patrol hours also.
So we get a very detailed quarterly report from the police at the OPP, right? That captures all of their hours and it's broken down. And I'm sure we see it every quarter, right? And so every investigation in our municipality, it is reported. The problem they have with the with respect to the roads and reporting on that is that it gets difficult for them given the highways and they don't have that specific information. So police services report that is not specific to East Ferris. But it is an item that we continue to ask for, and we have completed surveys and have gone to the Solicitor General in with a request for data specific to East Ferris. That is why we've been encouraging, as a Police Services Board as well, that the use of electronic signage. And we're now, I think we received this month. In fact, there's a couple of communities more in rural settings like ours that are doing a pilot project with some of these electronic signs. So that is very attractive to us because it continues to be an impediment. But to your point,
Might be misunderstood or something, because I know like even you can track the hours. When you're in a municipality, we could track the hours in the city for different zones, so you can track the hours. So anyway, we'll leave it like that, but you can track the hours and they can track the hours too. So at that point, I could have a discussion with them also. So,
well, certainly, I mean, the next point that's coming up will maybe help on that particular item.
sure.
And so basically in the correspondence, you have a letter there from the Solicitor General that is basically approving the reorganization of services boards. And well, remember, I guess it goes back to 2021. We had submitted, we knew that the provincial government and the Solicitor General was looking at how to reorganize police services board, and they were looking at actually in our area doing away with different police services board and going to the one. And so basically we had advocated, you may recall, that we wanted to be able to have our own services board in our community, but we had to make some concessions. And so because there were communities such as Chisholm that didn't have any police services board, there's the unorganized townships. So basically, we had put forward a proposal. It had come to council. You had approved it. We had sent it forward. Our proposal was slightly different than what has been approved. And that's because at the time Callender wasn't part of the OPP family at that point. So basically what has come forward, and you may have seen it in the correspondence, it's item B, I think, in the letters. And so what's been approved is a police services board that would have East Ferris, Chisholm, that will have East Ferris, Chisholm, and Bonnfield. And then there will be Mattawa, Calvin, Papineau, Cameron, and Matawan in one. The other one will be Nipissing, Powassan, and Callender. And so basically the makeup of those boards are all described in that letter, the number of council members, the number of community members, the number of appointees, provincial appointees, that's all defined. And pretty well it reflects what we had submitted, with the exception of Bonnfield had wanted to go with Mattawa. And so basically though, the provincial police have said that one of the issues we have around Lake Nesponsin is the road. And for that particular reason, our roads, the monitoring of our roads. So they felt that was a common element that we shared, because a lot of the traffic that use our roads are from people that live in Bonnfield, people that live in Chisholm. So basically we have been reorganized into police services board that would have the communities of Chisholm, Bonnfield, and East Ferris. And so it allows us to basically have 3 council members, 1 from each community, 4 community members, and we already have the 1 community member. Bonnfield has 1, so we have a couple there. 2 provincial appointees, and we already have the 1 provincial appointee. We're the only ones, so that would give an opportunity for one of the other municipalities. So overall, I think it's I'll let you read the letter, and it's going to be posted. They define the process, but that we had a brief discussion as well with both municipalities, Bonnfield and Chisholm, and they're very delighted. Bonnfield's very delighted to join our police services board. So I think it's an opportunity for us on that note with maybe the monitoring of the roads. Councillor Trahan, I think, yeah.
Well, how is it defined? I read the letter, and it doesn't define, there's 3 communities and there's 2 appointees. So how does that go?
We have 4 appointees. We have 4. So if you go to the,
Yeah, so I mean, like for your provincial, so.
I don't know, we haven't,
Community, that's why I'm asking.
yeah,
That has not been defined.
no,
Has that question been asked?
no, we have not. We've just received it. So we have, so it comes to council, it's going to the Chisholm Council, going to the Bonnfield Council. So we have not defined how we're going to, so basically at this point, when we had a brief discussion with both communities, they recognize that we already have an appointee. So I think that is, and we have good members.
Firm?
Yes, that's the intention. So basically, that's what we have to define. It's unclear at this point. But I would say, we had wanted more community representatives. So we are the one police services board that has the most. And I think that is a good element then. So you can look at the letter and we can provide further comments, because for now it's in September. Yeah, it's at this point, it's defined and we need to clarify things.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's where so I wanted to make those comments there. It's in the correspondence, but I thought it does deal with police services board. So if there are no further comments, we'll move on to item C, Castle Home, DSAB Health Unit, and the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority. Rick, Councillor Champagne, are you, okay, there you are, okay. And Bon, any comments on any of these items?
I've got a health board meeting. I got a health board meeting coming on the 16th. And there's minutes already in your correspondence already from the last meeting. So if you have any questions, our next meeting is coming up.
And Mattawa Conservation is next week also.
DSAB's in September.
Okay,
What else is September? There's lots going on, as you know, on the basis. It's meetings in September.
I know with the Mattawa Conservation, they were looking at the city taking over the ski hill, not the Mattawa Conservation. So there's some stuff about that coming up. So
okay. With that said, then we'll move to departmental reports, and actually some good news here. On that note, Mr. Tretier and Mr. Curtin. It's Mr. Curtin. Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so one thing from, I believe it was the last council meeting, council wanted us to take a peek at the Housing Accelerator Fund through CMHC. At first glance, when Greg and I went through it, it didn't seem like it was really, I guess, a good fit or there was a good chance of getting funds, but Greg attended a webinar and also spoke to CMHC. And it seemed to be worth a shot, especially because we can do the funding application in-house without paying a consultant. At first, we thought, okay, there's probably quite a bit of work to do here and we'll have to pay somebody. There's a cost to doing that. And if we don't have a good shot at getting funding, then are we really throwing, good money out for nothing? But from that, we've had some good discussions internally, and I'll let Greg discuss more the program with you guys. But we feel there's an application to be put forward, especially doing it in-house. So go ahead, Greg.
Sure, thanks. Good evening, everyone. I'll start by giving a bit of background for what the fund is. It was on our council agenda, is just giving us how this fund existed, and the application deadline was coming up on August 18th. So that's next Friday. But as Jason said, we've already started a bit of a draft framework for what an application could look like, and it's something that we would be able to complete in-house. So if council supports the idea in principle, it is something we could go ahead and at least take a shot at and see how we do. The Housing Accelerator Fund is Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation Fund, CMHC. They've allocated $4 billion nationwide for this program. So they've stated that the purpose of this fund is that through the provision of this, the Housing Accelerator Fund is intended to drive transformational change within the sphere of control of local governments regarding land use planning and development approvals, with the overall objective to accelerate the supply of housing. So basically, this fund is only available to municipal governments, Indigenous communities, and any local body. It's not eligible for not-for-profits, private companies, or anyone else. Only municipal authorities. So they basically have defined three major objectives that they want our applications to target, and they want to see an increase in the amount of housing you're supplying and encouraging to be built over a 3-year time frame specifically, but then they score the application based on the effectiveness of your goals. And if you can demonstrate that you're making kind of organizational changes that will extend beyond that 3-year time frame, they'll look more favorably upon that. So the whole fund is really centered around trying to make things like procedural changes that will allow housing to be built more quickly. So in our for a community our size, we would fall into what they call the small rural north and Indigenous stream. So that's for any community that has 10,000 population. So that's what we would be applying under. We have a couple minimum requirements that we need to meet as part of the application. So we have to develop a housing action plan, which I'll get to in a second. That's going to be the bulk of my rural report. And then very important, you have to commit to a housing supply growth target. So the main metric that the fund is using to assess the quality of your application is if you can demonstrate how you will increase your housing over what your baseline would be without the fund. So as an example, say we build 10 units in a year. If we can show that through the initiative we proposed, we would be able to build 15 units, that increase of 5 units is the main thing they're looking at. So we're required to be able to demonstrate that we can build at least a 10% increase in available housing, and that's over all housing types. So I'll get to it in a second, but there's different criteria when we're looking at single detached versus say multi-residential versus affordable housing, and they're all treated slightly differently. The final major thing for minimum requirement is you need to have what they refer to as a housing needs assessment report. And we did have a piece of correspondence on, I believe the last council done as well from DSAB. So DSAB put out an RFP recently to complete this study for our entire region. And they have since selected a consultant and they expect the study to be done by, I think they said December. This fund acknowledges that this is something that you may not have ready to go for the day you make the application. So the fact that DSAB is doing this study for our region automatically ticks that box for us, and it was one of the biggest components, so that works out well. Yeah, the next major thing is action plans. So they give you a list of different like action plan ideas in a large prescribed list, and they kind of encourage you to choose from those initiatives. Some of them apply to things like that we wouldn't have here, like high density housing around major transit stations. So that's focused on the large urban stream. But then there are a lot that do apply to us. So I highlighted some of the ones that I think are relevant for us. So things like promoting infill development. So actually, you know what, I'm gonna wait 1 second on this because I have them in my plan. So I think I'll come back to that. Before I get to my plan, I just wanted to touch on how the funding works, because that's really the most important part about it. So the way they're doing funding for this is I explained a second ago how they're looking for any increase in number beyond what your baseline is. So the funding that they award is directly tied to the number of additional units you're able to provide. So have a baseline value that they associate with each additional unit, and then they just multiply it together, and that's how they determine how much money they're going to give you. And they also give bonuses. So they have bonus funding for higher density housing, like townhouse, small apartment, etc. And then they have even additional bonus funding for any affordable housing. So they've set the baseline at approximately 20,000 per unit you can provide. And then a median, like a higher density housing, would be about 32,000 per unit. And then affordable housing would be about 39,000 per unit in their example. So I just did a quick kind of scenario to give you an idea of like the type of dollar value we could be looking at here. So if we could prove that we'll build 10 additional single detached homes per year, that would be an additional 200,000 in funding. 10 multi-unit would be another 320,000. And if we did 5 affordable units, that's 195. So that would be 715,000 per year over 3 years. So we would potentially be eligible for 2.145 million over that 3-year period. So it adds up quickly if you're able to demonstrate that you can provide this. And it lines up well because we have a lot of housing going on, but we have opportunities too. We have opportunities for new additional affordable housing, which we know is limited in the community. We have additional opportunities to support seniors housing development. We know there's a massive wait list for things like the seniors villa. So it lines up well with the kind of priorities and initiatives that have outside of this specific application.
I just want to make sure Rick can hear us.
Councillor Champagne, can you hear?
Yeah, I hear some of it, but I'll have to get Greg to send me a breakdown after. It's really hard to hear.
Can we move that over there?
Yeah, and I leave it to you to decide is what you can.
Yes, I was a little bit of a cold too, so.
And I just was looking going. I mean, he was listening, but he could be here, so.
There we go. That should,
Oh, that's
Should-
100%.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
So we're looking at dollar values that are directly tied to how much housing we're able to incentivize. And the very interesting thing about thanks. Yeah. The interesting thing about this fund is most of the time when you get these type of like large value grant applications that come out, they're usually specifically structured in a way that you'll apply for a project and then they'll fund specific projects. This application is actually the complete opposite. It says right in it that they're not looking to specifically fund like one-off housing projects. They're looking to more generally fund organizational change or other initiatives that support housing. So as an example, some of the things that you're able to spend money on. So first of all, you have to spend money to implement your action plan items. So if there is a cost associated with some of these, like say policy changes or different things you're doing, you spend that money to implement your changes. But then everything that's left over, which in most cases is going to be a significant portion of your grant money, you can allocate to other things. So just some examples here. Drinking water infrastructure that supports housing, brownfield redevelopment that supports housing, site preparation for housing developments, local roads and bridges, sidewalks, lighting, bicycle lanes, fire halls, landscaping and green space. So as you can see, I mean, you can spend this money on all sorts of different things. So you can, if you have money left over, you can divert it to other infrastructure projects, some of which in this list, like we know are priority items for us.
Yeah.
So,
Infrastructure costs, development based.
yeah,
Bridges, fire halls.
yeah,
As we grow and you expand, you need from that, right? So like I said, put your money to your initiatives first, get the action plan items done. And then whatever's remaining, you can spend on other items.
yeah. So, yeah, so that's just an idea of the type of money you're looking at and how the kind of funding for the application works. So I developed a bit of a draft action plan. And I just wanted to touch quickly on the fact that this eventually needs to be approved by council as part of our application. However, it doesn't need to be formally approved before we make the application. So it is something that you can consider and we can revisit as far as specific initiatives if there's like more conversation that needs to be had about any of them. That being said, I have a bit of a draft plan. We're required to have at least 5 initiatives, and those should be taken ideally from the list that they provided. So that's what I've done. I have 6 actually. We need to highlight how each of these initiatives can be achieved and how it will directly increase housing supply in the community. And basically how it will like help us meet those growth targets. So the first action plan initiative that I looked at was promoting infill developments with increased housing density in a variety of unit types. So this is something that we could do through, playing a more proactive role in the redevelopment of the old school site, for example, or, if there's sites like that we have within our core areas, looking at promoting a wider range of housing, promoting affordable housing, promoting more dense housing, anything like that would fit in with this category. And how it would increase housing is obviously by redeveloping a currently vacant underutilized site and getting a variety of housing on it. Second one, promoting and allowing more housing types that serve vulnerable populations. So we know that there's a lack of seniors housing in the community, and for the purpose of this application, seniors housing would qualify as housing for vulnerable populations. So there's a number of ways we could do that through collaboration with someone like the Seniors Villas or really another organization if one was present. I mean, there's ways you could support them with land incentives, different things that we could look at. Third one, create a process for the disposal of municipal owned land assets for the development of affordable housing as of right, in brackets, not requiring zoning. So basically what they're saying here is they want people to consider developing a process where the municipality could pre-zone land or pre-set kind of criteria for land so that they could partner with an organization like a not-for-profit that does seniors housing, and then they're ready to go. Like they don't want, they're trying to remove that barrier for organizations of having to go through zoning exercises, potential challenges, et cetera. So that's something that, we have a couple pieces of municipal land in certain areas that would probably be suitable for seniors housing in the same kind of form as the villas, and we could pre-zone that land and go through a process to get it ready for development. So that's what this is looking at. The next one, working with local nonprofit organizations that provide seniors housing to support the building of more income geared rental units for seniors looking to age in place in the community. So kind of continues with the theme of the last couple, but there's ways the municipality could put stipulations on land that the new units are created, they're at grade, like slab on grade, single story, like age in place friendly type designs. So those are ideas that could be incorporated into this one. The next one, so they put in one that said implement rental only zoning. So this is something that you don't see a whole lot, but it is something that you sometimes see in bigger cities. It would essentially say that a certain percentage of units in a development could only be made as rental housing and not sold. And you could use this in conjunction with something like say the municipality is setting up a process to get rid of land for the purpose of developing seniors housing. Well, we want to make sure that that's actually going to be used for affordable rental seniors housing, right? So maybe before you dispose it, you either enter into an agreement or you pre-zone it in a way that requires that as part of the process, so that we know that it actually is going to be used to serve those vulnerable populations and at the end and the rental capacity. And then the last one, this is one that was not in their list, but they allowed you to come up with your own if they also fit in with the goals of the program. So I put review housing policies for new construction, specifically with regards to subdivision applications. So we have a bit of a problematic policy in our official plan right now that only allows us to consider one official plan designation for a subdivision at a time. This is a problem for a couple of reasons. One is because it slows down the supply of housing potentially, because while you're going through the process for one development application, there could be another application ready to go, but we can't take it in. And it could be very different. You could have one that's kind of an estate residential style development. You could have one that's a waterfront style development, two very different types of housing types, but we can only take one in at a time. The second problem with it is it also potentially allows one developer to kind of have a stranglehold on the application market, because if they know that only one can come in at a time and they have one on the go, they get their next one ready to go. And as soon as it gets to that point where we can take a new one, they're ready to hand it in, right? So there's a couple things that are issues with that. So by changing those policies to allow us to be more flexible with how we process subdivision applications, it has the potential to increase housing by allowing different projects to concurrently go through the planning process at a time. So those are the six initiatives that I came up with as a bit of a draft to start. And if there's any questions about the fund, I'd be happy to answer them.
Would you mind just repeating the dollars involved so that
Did you hear Councillor Champagne when we were talking about what eligible expenses were for the fund, or did you miss that part?
No, I heard three of the last three quite clear. Just now when the mayor was speaking, I could see her moving her lips, but nothing was coming out.
Okay, I was just gonna, the mayor asked if I could go back over the dollar values associated with the fund. So I'll do that quickly. So they've basically broken it down into a per unit dollar value. So however many units you're able to demonstrate that you can build, like beyond your baseline construction numbers, they'll give you money for each of those units. And the rate that they'll give it at is at about $20,000 per standard residential unit, and then about 32,000 per unit that's in a multi-unit development, and then about 39,000 per development that's within an affordable housing development. So just as to run some quick numbers, if to be able to build 10 additional normal units, 10 additional multi-unit units, and 5 additional affordable housing units, that would be $715,000 that we would get from the fund within 1 year. And if we could do that for 3 years, which is the time frame of the fund, we'd be looking at about 2.145 million over 3 years. And after you implement your action plans, that money can go towards things that support housing, such as roads, bridges, water systems, fire halls, parks, et cetera.
No, that's great.
But first and foremost, to thank you for taking the time. And I know the application deadline's on August 18th, and I realize what's involved here. This is meaning you have to write it up and submit it, but you've taken the time to drill into it well done. Well done, because it's a lot of work to really understand all the dimensions. And so on that note, though, let's turn it over. You want feedback, I believe, before you prepare the application. So
One thing to note as well, council, there's no cost to us. Like, we're doing the application internally, but it's not like there's a split, an 80-20 or anything like that.
No.
Whatever we ask for, if they approve it, we get it.
Good point, yeah.
But we've got to implement. So as part of that, I looked at other housing action plans from other municipalities that are on agenda this evening. That if we need a complete new zoning bylaw, it's going to cost 25,000 per consultant. That could be a cost. So that's an initiative to do. But once that's paid, the remainder of the money can go towards other things. So there will be costs, but it's covered, right? So.
questions, comments? Wait, Councillor Kelly.
I've got two, but one is, are they looking at, is it in collaboration with regular developers, or are we owning the housing ourselves?
Either.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think of a lot of land that were formerly subsistence farms that would be available for new roads. There's a lot of acreage that is underutilized in East Ferris. You go down, just down Quincy Road, for instance, off Quincy and so forth. You could have 2 or 3 subdivisions every 3 or 4 miles. So purchasing that land, would that become?
It could.
For the purpose of building roads to make it attractive to.
So the fund is extremely broad in how you can implement. So it does say the municipalities can purchase land if they want to. They can give to a developer if they want to, and they can, they can build their own housing if we wanted to. I don't think we should do this, but we could build our own. You know how larger cities will have housing corporations, like Toronto, let's say, has their affordable housing brand, but you can do that type of thing with the money. But I mean, there's different things we can look at. It's
Difference. Those with a lot of people.
yeah.
Well, I would think that they were interested in expanding their services, whatever. I think that would be a good fit.
Yeah, they are, right? They had come forward.
They've got experience doing it.
Yes.
You know, but the management, it seems to be working quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Adding 10, 15 units might not be the end of the, it might not be that tough. Anyway, go ahead. I'd like to myself personally, go for the funding and see what's available.
Go forward.
Because it's tough. You got wide open parameters.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd have to agree to make plans. But it's a tight window.
Yeah, we'll make it though.
Thank you.
Wait, Deputy Mayor?
So I was watching some of the videos. I didn't do the webinars specifically, but what sort of keyed in for me, other than the money, of course, but was also that it can be new or renovations, right? And had a report from the villas that I think their septic system over in Edmond is not working. Could that be incorporated in that? And some of the roofing and stuff like that in the villas.
My take on it was renovations to something that will increase units. I'm not.
It doesn't really specify. It just, I'll get it says it right here.
Because I mean, if we got all the money and paid only for renovations that didn't increase housing,
Yeah.
I don't see how that means the goal of increase housing, accelerating housing starts. So I took it as,
There was another report indicating something, I read it.
yeah, like if you had a big building, let's take the school. I mean, everybody's aware the school is vacant. You've got the school. It is what it is, right? It's classrooms. But if you have to do renovations to make them into units and all like that, to me is what they're looking for to increase, because if you turn that into units versus what it is today, you've just increased 20 units of housing in the community, right? So that's how I took it.
It's very,
Expanding house, the footprint of putting people into either apartments or new housing.
it's,
I guess I was sort of worried, like if, let's say the septic for the villas starts coming down and we have to move those people out, they are actually decreasing spots. So I was with what?
it's very vague. I can read it for council. So it just has 3 bullet points. It says investments in affordable housing, and then the 3 are construction of affordable housing, repair or modernization of affordable housing, land or building acquisition for affordable housing. And it does. I mean, you're right, Jason. We still have to make sure that we're increasing units or else we're not proving to them that we've hit our targets. So we would need to balance
Like if council wanted to say, we're gonna donate a piece of land to the senior villa that, has been discussed in the past. We're also going to try with the remaining money after we implement our action items to give 5,000 a unit or 10,000 a unit as an incentive for them to build. Actually, that's a cash contribution, right? That might get them to say, yes, we want to move forward with it. We were kind of missing a bit of money to make this work, but that can make that work. And then council might say, okay, there's this going on in the school. Can we give something to get a boost going out again? Then you might have some, but a developer come forward and say, if I was to get X amount, I can build, because a lot of them they'll build the residential homes because they get the market price. But when you start talking about building affordable housing, they say, yeah, but then when we rent them out, they're irritating, we just don't make that money to make it work. Well, something like a cash injection from the town could make that development work, right? So you get creative, and I see them more as incentives for groups to build, right?
Yeah. Great.
Other comments or questions? Personally, I really like the support for the school, for residential property. I mean, I feel it's an obligation that we've not sufficiently discussed at the council table, that particular property. And so I like that I like that it was number 1 in their focus. And I mean, ultimately too, it's about a vision for the town of maybe the heart of Astorville for senior residents, I mean, and maybe tie in the villas that way. It's broadening that vision of senior housing in the village for senior residents. And but anyway, I think you have support from all of us to move forward with an application. We realize that it's broad, but if we don't apply, we won't have a chance. And so I'd say we're all in favor of moving forward. Oh, we have a resolution. Okay, all right.
Municipalities Fair, so their meeting in July 5th, 2023, received correspondence from CMHC regarding the housing accelerator funds. And whereas council directed staff to examine the feasibility of submitting an application for funding. And whereas the primary objectives of the program are to create more supply of housing at an accelerated pace and enhance certainty in the approvals of the building process. And whereas staff have reviewed the funding guide and participated in webinar hosted by SUHC and determined that there is an opportunity to obtain funding to assist in the development and expansion of affordable housing, different types of housing in the community. And whereas on the action items, the council's 2026 plan is to advocate funding. We hereby resolve that council authorizes staff to submit a funding application to the CMHC Housing Accelerator Fund. Further, that council approves the action plan and the plans initiative as
All in favor? Carried. Okay, anyway, well done. So very delighted and wait. And thank you for getting there. I brought that forward to our attention, and so that's all good. Yeah. On that note. Oh, yes. Okay, we. Okay, can you hear okay now, Councilor Shanghai?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we move forward now with bylaws and we turn it over to you, Madam Clerk.
I have a mover and a seconder, please. Councilor Kelly and Champagne. Whereas council for the municipality of East Ferris deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session. Be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2021-60 as amended, 1000328-150 Ontario Inc., Centennial Crescent, be read a first, second, third time, passed and numbered 2023-32, and that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
And comments before we vote? On favor? C'est bon, carried. I simply want to say what a good outcome this has been, the initial discussion we have had. So I know I won't go into details, but it turns out to be a good outcome. So thank you, council. On that note, we move forward to item B.
Mover and a seconder, please.
Oh, it's council, wait, Deputy Mayor Ruacker, yes.
Sir, for him. Whereas council. Sorry, can I redo the first and second again? I got a mover and a seconder.
Oh, sure.
Please. Councilor Kelly and Councilor Trahan. Whereas council of the municipality of East Ferris deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session. Be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to close and convey a vacant parcel of land described as concession 3, part lot 9, RP 36R6186. Parts 1 and 2, PCL 15895 WF, East Ferris, just located on Kyle Road, to the abutting lands described as concession 3, part lot 9, RPNR 128, part 1, PCL 7822 WF, East Ferris District of Nipissing, 62 Kyle Road, be read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered 2333. And that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
All in favor? C'est bon, carried. Thank you so much. Would anyone like to, we can maybe, okay, go to. Second while Deputy Mayor Ruacker returns to the room. Proceed.
Mover and a seconder, please. Councilor Champagne and Councilor Champagne. Whereas council for the municipality of East Ferris deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session, be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to close and convey a part of the road allowance referred to as Ridge Road connecting between Noswinton Park Road to adjacent property owners. Part 1, Plan 36R 14920 to the abutting lands described as Plan 36M 505. Part Block B, East Ferris, District of Nipissing, and Part 2, Plan 36R 14920 to the abutting lands described as Plan M505. Part Block C, Part Block 3, RP 36R 11442, Part 1. You read a first, second, and third time, passed on number 2023-34, and that said by law be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
In favor? I see you have. Councilor Kelly, had you raised?
I did, I raised
You
it.
did, yeah, you were the first one, so I missed you. Okay, carried, thank you very much. Now we move to correspondence, and on that note, I thought we would run out of letters of the alphabet.
Then we go to AA.
Wow. Wait a minute there. On that note, Deputy Mayor Louis Akers, anything that you'd like to report now for discussion or for further consideration at a later date?
Yes, so I figured we're going to be talking about C at some point. The Ontario Land Tribunal.
I don't think we were going to discuss it this evening. I don't know if there's any specific comment. We could make comments this evening, an update maybe while we're on it. Any updates that you provide related to that?
Sure, what I can say to this, Mayor Rochford, if you look, Julie McGee is actually the Ministry of Natural Resources. So the letter's directed to her. She's the one that put word on behalf of MNRF. So she received a response from the, I guess still the PLT. So all they're saying is now a case coordinator has been assigned to the file. So we don't have any dates for when anything's going to start. From past experience, you can get a case coordinator and there not be a hearing for 6 months or longer. So this is actually just saying that the file is now in someone's hand at the OLT. So,
Okay.
we provided our objection back in December. And also on the letter, which is a public document, you'll see that there's a lot of objectors.
Okay.
So that's where it's at right now. Okay.
Can I move forward? Okay, so I was wondering about bringing forward about the Municipality Freedom of Information and Privacy, Protection of Privacy Act. K, which is, chronic pain treatment. So this is something that I talked to my husband about, and it is an important issue. So it is about the College of the Ontario College of Physician and Surgeons are requiring clinics that treat chronic pain to do ultrasounds before doing nerve blocking. And that would increase the overhead for in clinics. And so therefore they may, if they're small clinics, they can't afford the equipment, so then they have to close down. That means people suffering from chronic pain then have to go to a church. We have an opioid crisis. And so this was something that I discussed and I thought it was interesting and should be brought forward.
Sure.
So that makes sense about that. Okay.
And H, before you move on, coming back, I saw our Mr. Trottier shaking his head. Is this, you in favor of that? I got a sense that.
Yeah, I'm staff, but yeah, I would be.
Right, yeah, okay, it's
Should we just say what that looked like? I never know if we should discuss it.
just maybe mention what it is. It's basically the bureaucracy that's involved with, and the cost, and it's very difficult for staff
Yeah.
to deal with these issues.
The ease of abuse is the problem.
They also speak of antiquated language around technology that, today wouldn't be the way you would deal with things, I guess. It is 30 years old, the act or the legislation. So to me, after 30 years, you would just suspect that they would do a review of it, right? So.
I nodded.
Yeah, when I read it, when I read it, I thought, oh, good on Chad and Kent to bring this forward. It's not something we've thought of, but it is old and it's antiquated and there's probably a better way of doing things. So.
So we like that one.
Realize the work on municipal staff to
Yeah.
deal with these requests. or this piece of legislation, and that if we can, save a little money there or someone's time.
Mhm.
I also like the piece about frivolous and vexatious, because we've seen in the past, you'll have one person that, you start dealing with 3-4 times.
Yeah.
And then after a while, it becomes frivolous and vexatious, but it always leads more on the side of the general public than us, right? So it's about time.
Okay.
I hope there's a consultation period where they open it up and allow for comments.
Well, could we put that in our,
That might be a good one.
in our letter? Yes, we would have no issue with that. There's many examples out there that could be shared and could highlight the process. Good, okay. So chronic pain treatment,
Yes, which I guess is not relevant to,
100% to us,
but people will be going into May or something. Couple more that is P. So we had the presentation last council about intimate partner violence. And we have a resolution moving forward to have action plan with our community safety and wellbeing plan. But we didn't put in there to declare it an epidemic. So I'm not sure if that, because of our action, we are embracing that, or should we support this resolution as well? So have two different resolutions. So moving P forward. And then S, again with the August 3rd. And this again was with just as a resource, I thought was really interesting for the community safety and wellbeing committee is there's one called under the municipal wire. There it is. They have understanding mental health and well-being in later life. Project team from CAMH has put together a series of evidence-based handouts for adults 65 and older, and it's in 12 different languages. So I thought that would be interesting. Something just to share out loud, I guess. And then
If I may, the mayor, that might be something we want to share with Club Action 50. Because I know they do their own newsletter and their own mailouts.
yes.
So if we've got the info at our fingertips, why not?
I'm very happy you mentioned that, because as Deputy Mayor Ruakis was speaking, I was thinking, we don't really have a vehicle sometimes to reach, but the Club Action 50 Plus, they have terrific mailing list, a terrific newsletter, and they communicate well. So that would be, we should, yeah, exactly. Okay. That's a great idea. Yes. Okay. Good. And then I'll leave some for some expertise here, but September 16th is Pride March in North Bay. And then Warrior 200, there is a gravel bike race, September 8th and 9th. So I thought that was interesting too.
I suspect we may have some discussion on item P, so we could either do it now or keep it for later when we get to action items. And maybe we'll do that and finish with the correspondence, if that's okay with everyone. And, but then we have the North Bay Pride March. It's an invitation for us as a council to participate. This little flag.
Yeah.
Sorry, improvising. Sorry. On that note, yes, an invitation to participate, all the council members. So we can confirm that it's been shared and that we will, our council is receptive to, will be attending.
I will attend.
Basically,
That's what I'm confirming. If anyone else would like to join me, you're welcome to do so. I think the date is September 16th. Is that correct? Saturday. Yeah.
and so basically we're being invited as a council to participate in that march. And so. Okay, on that note.
Then the next one,
Do we discuss now to the, I thought it was either the gravel bike race or the gravel bike race. And I discovered now that it's the gravel bike race. What I found interesting about this, I should share in our action plan for the active transportation, we had put in there as an idea, as a concept, longer term, to develop a Lake Nesponsing bike tour. But that is an attractive opportunity for us with the municipal township of Chisholm and Bondfield. And I felt that this year is actually a start to that. So I was really delighted by this initiative. I guess it's Jeff Miller that's put it forward. And so what a great idea. So personally, I'd like to suggest that we encourage this. This is in, a lot of it is it builds on our roads. It's on a voyage trail. And I was going to suggest that there's a lot of things in kind that we could do as well. They put in the letter there that we can provide before we park all of the cost of the parking lot we can pave. So there's some in kind. So on that note, I turn it over to council for any comments on that specific item, because I think we probably, I don't know if we need a resolution for that tonight.
We should.
Yeah, we should, eh? Okay. Anyone has everyone read the letter? Have you seen the letter?
Is it a Saturday or?
No, this is not the Pride Month. This is the.
September 8th and 9th.
Oh, I'm sorry, 8th and 9th?
September 8th and 9th, which would be,
Right.
it's the second weekend. Or sorry, Friday, Saturday, the second weekend.
It's gravel bike this year.
That's correct.
All I'm saying is, Equity Hall is very busy on Fridays, and I don't know about Saturdays. Fridays it's busy.
Okay.
Okay, so I just think before we start operating the hall, we should check out who the users.
Yes. So just for council's information, Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30 is already the seniors that are in there, right? So I'm not sure if they needed the hall for Friday. Sometimes they need it for the one day. It's kind of like the final day. Greg may have spoken about that with Jeff.
Yeah, I believe that they're asking for setup purposes. I'd have to double check with Jeff, but my understanding is that the main event happens Saturday. I think the issue is that they're proposing to do a 60-kilometer, a 100-kilometer, and a 200-kilometer race. And usually with these type of events, the 200-kilometer race takes so long that they start like before sunrise. So I think part of it is anticipation of a very, very early morning of Sunday.
But what we could do is coordinate it with Lynn from the Club Action 50+. Some mornings they do the exercises, but afterwards they may not have anything. We're not sure, but we wouldn't go and offer it up without speaking to the group.
Make sure the groups were.
Yeah. But what's nice with these, and you saw this weekend, these cycling events, I mean, they spoke to the road championships of North Bay, but
I know.
the
Yeah.
big chunk of it is actually in East Ferris. And if you read this letter, it's East Ferris.
Yeah.
So it's nice to bring the events to town. And the citizens seem to be pretty happy about it. If you looked on social media and read some of the comments,
Yeah.
it's nice to see. So, I mean, I think it's a small contribution they're asking for a nice event in town.
Do we put a dollar figure, or do we leave it to you to negotiate with them what makes sense and we know more then? Or do we?
If you put an upset limit, then what we can do is either cash or in kind. I would say that if we're gonna, give them the hall for a day and they speak to additional washroom facilities, which we already have porta potties there, but I think I don't want to rent it for them and have it on site. I'd rather give the cash for something like that and let them handle porta potties, Matt. But if council gives us an upset limit, then we can work with that, right?
What would the appropriate amount, do you feel, you think?
250, 300?
They put 5 in the letter,
Yes, 5,
but that's cash value.
that's cash value. So basically, if we said 300 in cash in addition?
So they're looking for the hall plus cash, or?
So I'll read it right here. I
Yeah.
request municipalities similar show of support through a contribution of 500 to be used for the hall rental, additional washroom facilities, barbecue rental, catering and permit costs, temporary route markers, things like that. So they're asking for 500, but if we came forward and said, well, hall rental would be 150 that day. So we'll give you 350 plus a hall, or we can start reducing from the 5, I believe is how we can look at it.
So I'm looking for, I'm just putting a figure out there. So I guess it's a little bit your thoughts on what would be appropriate. And knowing that in general, we don't sponsor like it as a rule of thumb as a council, because we would always be sponsoring. But this year is a promotion of our community. Basically, this is what, as Mrs. Ratzi highlighted, we'll be promoting East Ferris and continued cycling in East Ferris, which I think has been appreciated by our community.
And also, Mayor Rochford, they put additional support the municipality could offer, including grading the parking lot and back race, which we did for the races that were this weekend as well. We should thank our Public Works Department for their assistance with that as well. And Parks and Recreation cleaned up some of the garbages today and things like that. Staff are usually always involved. And they say providing access to water for bike cleaning at the hall. So that's something else we can provide them with as a source of water at the hall or the old municipal office. And then look at the 500 and say, well, we'll give you, $250 cash, but we're going to do these items in kind. But if council feels the value should be a total of 500 inclusive of in-kind, then.
Remember, we say 500 inclusive of in-kind.
Yeah.
Yes, and to be creative with our,
There's no showers up for the hall, that's all.
No, they wanted water for bike cleaning,
Okay. well,
outdoor bike cleaning,
Water bill.
shower soap bikes.
bike shops.
Okay, it's
Resolution, Gary?
I do.
Yeah.
Should I get on the various here? Councilor Verhan, Deputy Akers. The council over the municipality of East Ferris contributes up to $500 to the Voyager 200 gravel bike race. Either in kind or.
Oh, c'est bon? Okay, on favor? C'est bon? Councillor Champagne, yeah, okay. Thank you, and
I think that probably brought you to the end of the alphabet, yeah. On the-
I just want to mention one thing that you did just recently. I heard also, and I think I got it from Greg also, is that our public works staff that cover the bike race, the last bike race. Apparently they just love Dominic. Dominic helped out. And they did it to Dominic, big shout out.
yes.
Yeah.
He did great work. He looked after the people and they love them for it, and I'm pretty sure.
Well, we clean the roads as well, brush the roads,
Yeah.
graded the park.
So anyway, it's a good shout out to our public works staff. So, yeah, absolutely. So good. Yeah,
Not that I want-
we forgot, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
we forgot we had some staff working, so.
Correct. Exactly, well said.
An idea for council as well might be a good idea, might be to speak to you guys, but maybe a thank you letter to the organizers of the last race and Jeff Miller.
Yes.
To say thanks for bringing the events to our community, and,
Yeah.
so. Because the last race didn't really cost. us.
Never heard.
Give it a stop time.
Yeah.
Right, but nice event.
Positive feedback.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that? To the organizers of this race, and we have coming, yeah. Was there any mountain biking in at the Wassy Club, or was that all in Northby? Nothing, okay. Oh, so on that note, thank you so much, Councillor Kelly.
I've got D and V as in Victor.
Oh, yes, that's wonderful. What you would like to?
Well, D's been used extensively in the Scandinavian countries, and it's been very successful. And what it is, it's 2-in-1 using existing roads. It makes two, in other words, it's designated passing lanes, 2-lane road. And then there's a fence, so it eliminates head-on collisions. And then the roads, you get a warning sign, a fence starts to go in, you're in a 1-lane road after about, say, 10 kilometers. And the oncoming lanes are 2-lane. And you're on a 1-lane road, but there's a divider, a fence divider for 2-in-1. And then another 10 kilometers, it opens up for you and the lane coming at you is 1 lane. And Phenom's been pushing this for 12 years that I'm aware of, at least. So it's nice to see it's being, I don't know if it's going to work. I mean, everybody's in a hurry. I drive down Nussbansing Road, and I try doing 80 without being passed. It's pretty tough. Anyway, long story short, I hope it works because it makes things the highways a lot safer.
So here the government has retained a firm to do the work, is that correct?
That's what I'm understanding. And it's a trial error.
To do a study, I should have said.
That's it. This is going to be a trial. So that's good. V is strictly the CN. And I couldn't believe we've still got level collisions with trains. And vehicles don't win when they hit a train, when a train hits them. It's very serious.
Do we have the resolution this evening or are we bringing it to our next council?
Oh, this is just information, just to bring it forward.
Yeah, we've always passed the resolution, I believe, as a council because we.
I thought we had, yes. Yep.
So
I'll put it on.
It's the next agenda, so we're gonna.
Thank you. That's all I've got. Thank you.
That's it, thank you. Councilor Trahan?
No, I'm good. Everything's been, which is fine. And, yeah, the rail safety is from September 18th to the 24th.
Yeah.
We did that past,
Okay.
so.
Our next meeting is September 12th and we'll bring it back.
Yeah. Good. So.
Councilor Champagne?
Yeah, I don't know if any, like, hard hearing tonight for some reason. I taped some of the conversations. It's really, only hit and miss. So I got E, City of Woodstock. I got O, Town of Haltley Hills support for the school bus arms camera. And then we talk about the 2-in-1 road, which is D.
Yeah, so we just spoke about the 2-in-1 road.
Councillor Kelly described it to us. And we basically said, this is great that it's moving forward. There's going to be a study. So that one we just did. So any further comments from your part on that?
No, I think it's a great idea. They've been at this for a while, I believe. And I think you talked about it at the FNUM conference. I thought they were excited and the minister, Mulroney, was speaking about it. And it's a great opportunity to save lives, especially on a Northern Highway. I've been driving it. So it's a perfect program for sure.
So the city of Woodstock, is it the homelessness crisis and opioid
Yes.
crisis? Yes, okay, yes. Yeah, I mean, we can support.
These recommendations.
It's all we can do. And we see it in our area, and I've been up north and I see it worse than what we got it. And you don't realize how bad it is out there. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Wait, yeah.
Because we passed that same resolution February 28th with Phenom, because Phenom had it.
Mhm.
So do we pass it again?
Oh, well, there's a good point. Is it the same resolution that we passed?
It is.
Okay.
I sort of read both of them and I wasn't sure. And the same with the camera arms, which is great. I mean, we could pass them again, but I had those listed and I'm going, well, that was passed on June 13th, that was passed February 8th. The other, so I wasn't sure, do you pass them again?
So I think the camera arm, Councillor Champagne, you just want to raise it, the fact to say, thank you, it's happening. There's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's not-
And the only thing on that one in there, it says send it all municipalities, but it doesn't say to send it to AMO or OGRA or Phenom. They just, they kind of identify some of the ministries.
So basically the homelessness
crisis and opioid crisis.
Deputy Mayor Luakers points out makes a good comment. We've already passed this resolution.
And I guess we're faster than other communities in passing resolutions. And so if everyone is okay, we could pass it again, but nothing wrong, or we could change it. But if we're comfortable with that it's continuing to move forward, our impetus has, others, that's evolved.
It's not going away. That's the problem.
Yeah. I know.
Well, it's going to be brought up at AMO. I'm pretty sure a lot of that's going to get brought up anyway. So.
well, on the agenda, I noted that the last day is all devoted or dedicated to this particular issue on the AMO agenda.
And it's a good agenda, but the second day is all dedicated to this particular issue. To your point, Councilor Champagne.
Well said. Okay,
And on that note then, we
are good to move forward. I mean, give you that one person. Yep, okay. Excellent, everyone.
good job. And hopefully it won't be as long next time on this, but it's, Madam Clerk, please proceed with the,
I'll move her in a second here, please. Councillor Champagne and Deputy Mayor Ryan. Council approved the correspondence and information as circulated with the agenda of August 8th, 2023.
all in favor?
Jerry,
Thank you so much. Now we come to action items. And the first one is resolution of noise bylaw exemption. So that was for the, I believe for the family reunion. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Move her in a second, please.
Sure.
Councillor Kelly, hand. Whereas Joanne Rogers has made a request to the municipality for an exemption under section 4 of municipal bylaw 2015-33, a bylaw to prohibit excessive noise. And whereas with Joanne Rogers' request, the exemption will only apply from Friday, September 8th, 2023 at 11 p.m. to Sunday, September 10th at 2 a.m. Purpose of a backyard family reunion to be held at 747 Durland Road. Be hereby resolved that council for the municipality of East Ferris approve the request received from Joanne Rogers and grant an exemption of bylaw number 2015-33 for Friday, September 8th, 2023 at 11 p.m. through Sunday, September 10th at 2 a.m.
All in favor? C'est bon, carried.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to say, Mayor, and I think I mentioned it last time, just we gave a notice to the OPP, so then they're not getting phone calls and everybody's on the same page. Right?
I don't think on this, we did it for the,
For the noise by the. You then are aware that there is a function going on. Yes, right. Good.
amending the RBC banking signing authorities.
I'm gonna move her in a seconder, please.
Just for council's information, this is required because our clerk's retired. The clerk was the signing authority. So.
Put his hand up too.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Riker, seconded by Councilor Champagne, that following be approved as financial signing authorities for the corporation of the municipality of East Ferris effective August 8th, 2023 as follows. One of Mayor Paul Rushford, Deputy Mayor Lauren Roy-Akers, and one of CEO Treasurer Jason Chaudhry for carrying.
All in favor? C'est bon, carried.
Thank you so much. We come to the resolution for intimate partner violence. And I thought before we table this resolution, maybe just to have a few comments and just a general discussion. Because as well, I think Deputy Mayor Rouillard pointed out to the letter that was included in the correspondence. When both the request to come forward with a presentation and a resolution go through, I guess, Councilor Kelly, then to myself, and we said, well, so that's how the process worked, and the resolution had been prepared. So the same resolution that we are seeing in P is a resolution that we had seen that had been presented to us as a council, but that we did not bring forward to our meeting when they made the presentation, because we felt that we should hear them out and then decide what we wanted to see as a resolution. And so, so basically the resolution that is before you is one that takes into account what had been prepared in terms of the resolution that's in P, but also takes into account the comments that were made following that presentation by both Councillor Trahan and Deputy Mayor Rouillard. And so Councillor Trahan was the issue of corroborating or evidence in support of that. The issues that were being outlined, and Deputy Mayor Rouillard was the recommendation that it be brought to the Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee. So basically what I'm trying to bring forward a recommendation, because we had said we would, I took the original resolution and tried to bring it to make it specific to East Ferris by incorporating some of the data that we did have. And so basically that's what you see as part of item D. We have two options. We could look to simply, three options, I guess. We could look to just doing the supporting letter, the letter that's there as presented, I guess. To me, I think if we're going to have a resolution, we should have one, not two, if we do. So we should either have P or we should have the one here that's been, I guess, put in the favor of East Ferris, or we go with D, or we modify one of the two, or we don't do anything. So we basically have four options before us. And I want to say that even though I prepared this resolution, I am open to your comments and suggestions. And I should maybe make a final comment. During COVID, as the Police Services Board, when we received the quarterly reports, and we had seen that hike in number of calls for domestic disturbances at the same time as we saw the number of calls for break-ins. Remember, there were the break-ins in the cars and houses.
Those two indicators went up.
And so it was like, my gosh, the impact of COVID. But this indicator for domestic disturbance was much higher than the incidence of the number of break-ins during that particular period. And so for me, from a police services board, I do recall that we had felt that was a serious issue, and it had been discussed with the Ontario Provincial Police and the input from them. Basically, when COVID finished, we did not necessarily make a recommendation, but when it came forward, the presentation at our last meeting, it made me reflect on that and think that there is some merit in having it brought forward in a community safety and wellbeing plan. I would say one incident of domestic disturbance or intimate partner violence. The difference is domestic disturbance includes elder abuse, includes child abuse, includes family. And when we had those discussions at our police services board meeting, in each there's the issues were specifically more so family oriented due to spousal disputes. But and so I include in our resolution our numbers. However, for sure, there could be doubles. There could be, you get a call from one family. Often it could be the same family that calls again. So we don't have clarity that it's necessarily single issues that are that were contributing to that increase. So personally, after all of this, after that presentation, while I don't necessarily feel that in East Terrace it's an epidemic, I don't sense that. I feel because COVID, we've just gone through a pandemic, and I feel that this is not reflective of what's in our community, and why I prefer, if we're going to have a resolution, I prefer it to be specific to us on this particular issue. And so I'm now very comfortable with the resolution like is going forward as being suggested here. That said, I know there are different viewpoints, but I say to you, we should really understand, I guess, that one issue of domestic disturbance is too many. And so everything that we can do to help disseminate, to help prevent, I think it is a good approach. I know that when this occurred, in the addition, when I say this occurred, when the issues during COVID, when we had seen the spike, the edition, our community magazine, Wendy Loam, she's a retired OPP member. She was heading the Crime Stoppers. She wrote a piece in addition on this, and she quoted the statistics that had gone up in these stairs. And she also shared in the article a number of sources of places or people can go to turn to for help when these issues, when they face these issues. So I thought that had been a very good article that had been prepared by a retired Ontario Provincial Police officer. And so I conclude by saying all of our resolutions are embedded in political issues. There's always a political agenda behind so many of our issues. Okay, they're not, and I appreciate that maybe with this one as well, that there are some political issues that are incorporated, but ultimately I say, let's look at the good of it. If this is a good thing, and there has been some evidence in our community of this being an issue, then I think we should encourage the things that are good and give it some support. But obviously, those are my comments, but we have a very wise council, and I turn it over now to you for your comments before we decide the direction that we should take. Councillor Kelly.
Sure. Just one comment to start off with. An epidemic, usually something, COVID was an epidemic. It was a pandemic, it was everywhere. And that means it's spread over the whole world. The Black Plague. This for starters, this is not, it's perhaps, there's many causes for it. But it's basically it's 1% of the population. At 475, you've got what catch basin of 70 to 80,000 people. So 1% would be 700 to 800 people. This is 475 reports, and some of them may be the same families or family members. Anyway, no, it's not clarified. So I have a problem right away with the word epidemic because we don't. And then I have another problem, of course, and I think we'll expound on it. That fortunately, it's not happening to any degree in East Terrace. And I think there's a lot of very strong political agenda behind it. There was a letter to the editor concerning what's going on. But I believe there's a definite problem in our judicial system. And this is for everybody out there. If you look up the 3 very unfortunate ladies who were killed in Renfrew County. And look up the perpetrator and the history and the failure of our system to actually target people that were targeted. There's an indicator of what's wrong in our judicial system. And that's extremely unfortunate. And it's ongoing. So, but epidemic means we're looking 40-50% of the population. This is not the case. This is not an epidemic by definition. Whereas a pandemic, it just means it's more widespread. Epidemic is like a smallpox outbreak in an isolated community where 50-60% of the people come down. That's an epidemic. But at least any one case is one too many. I agree with that. Anyway, I'll let everyone else address it, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so this comment also is it's great that the Nipissing Violence Against Women, the organization made their presentation. And if the incident actually occurred in the Nipissing district, that would be fine, but this did not happen in the Nipissing district. This happened in Renfrew. So, and it came with a coroner's inquest outside of it, and somebody grabbed the information and brought it here. So I know that dealing with domestics and everything like that, it's one of those situations where nobody condones the domestic part of it and everything, and we're quite against it. I don't see it being something where we need as council to redraft something when somebody brought something in. They came in, we honored it. So be it. I don't think East has a big issue. I go back on the reports back from April 11th of 2023, the report from OPP reviewed comparisons from 2021 to 2022, but the board advised that there was no major concerns. I think some of the numbers are included. It's a little murky with regards of family disputes. So family disputes also encompasses of, say, a child is being out of control. And so the OPP gets called, or whoever, the police department in that jurisdiction gets called and deals with that. So you got to watch some of the numbers. I don't think a lot of the numbers are true. You can massage it any way you want, but I just don't think that we should be, I'm not in favor of all of this. This is something somebody else brought forward, and that's great. We listen to them, we agree, and then move on. I don't think we need another component for East Ferris, Mayor. So I would just, Mayor, Deputy here's put it forward, and we'll leave it like that. I don't see where we need to be drafting something to publicize to put forward East Ferris. Unless there's some other numbers you have that are hard crunched numbers. I see we got more documentation here. The last presentation from these ladies that I'm not sure why we got it tonight, but that's for the district of Nipissing. Anyway, that's my comments, and good for you if you wanted to do extra work and putting it out here, but I don't really see the numbers that are really reflective of an issue here in East Ferris. Does it happen? Yes, it does. Do we condone it? Absolutely, we condone domestic disputes. But I think with all the numbers and totality of all the numbers here, and I went through it, going back, it's 2020, 2019, I believe. I went back. There was a couple of years that didn't even have domestic disputes. They had family disputes. And that was going back in February 23 of 2021.
So it takes you the trend, it goes east and west, so you can go all the way to Florida.
I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, we can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay. I kind of agree with what's being said here. I hear what the mayor is saying, but I also listen to Councillor Trahan and Councillor Kelly. Even when I brought it up, I said, if this went through the health unit yet, and their comments were, yes, it has, but really it hasn't. That was kind of heartening hearing that. And when I brought it up at the, which is going to be brought up again at the health unit, it feels like it's politically motivated for some reason. And I agree, it's a provincial, federal issue. I know there's one wrong is not right, but at the end of the day, this is motivated by something else, and I don't agree with our municipality getting involved in it. That's just my opinion. But it's going to get brought up at the health unit. If they want to bring it through there, then they're our backing. They'll do the history. They'll do the get the proper information that we need. If it's something we need to vote on at that time, I would. But right now, I'm not ready to do that.
So I guess I'm always debating when I'm looking at all the correspondence, right, as to what, and I know I brought forward the pain clinic, which is not the, chronic pain doesn't everywhere. So anyways, I guess I'm always debating this balance between what is good for East Ferris and what is just we put out into the world or whatever, right? And or support. And so I'm comfortable because I think this creates action in East Ferris. And I think that article would be wonderful to bring back. And maybe like I was looking at, our little calendar. And if the community safety and well-being would put the number, put those resources in our calendar. So if you are in a crisis, and your partner is abusive, you can't go back to the old East Ferris editions, right, to try and find that information. So this would be something that it brings it to people.
911?
911, that's the emergency.
Okay, so,
I don't know, you don't want to instill
Okay.
fear in residents in the municipality too, right?
but as well, as a mental health counselor, I am counseling moms and fathers, husbands and wives, and partners, right? And so you don't just phone 911. Sometimes you have to sort of organize yourself. I know that it's intimate partner violence, which is extreme, but you also,
I know. that
they're coming to me.
Sorry, counter that.
You want to talk?
Counter that. Counter that. Counter that. Okay, well.
Right, I 911 would
It's not
be
being-
the first call.
Yeah.
Right, but it is also, what other resources can people go, because a lot of times they don't want to, they love the person that they're with. And they don't want to call the police on them. So they're going to other resources to try and do it quietly. So I think it would be important to go back and look at that, and maybe the community safety and well-being could look at putting something in our calendar. With that, and I'm not saying that they have to do it, I'm just recommending, because I was just looking at that as a great resource. So anyways, that was just mine. So I am comfortable because I think this is an action plan for East Ferris to address the issue. So.
So now something to Councillor Zach, yeah, your turn. Did you want to speak now?
Oh, I'm good.
No, you're good. Oh, okay.
I would like to agree with Councillor Champagne. I'd like to not pass this tonight, put it back. Is it going to the health board, Rick?
We're going to speak about it the next meeting.
Okay, I'd like to leave it in abeyance. Let's see what the health board has to say. It's not a local issue. It's the Nipissing Basin issue. I would like to get some advice and actual true numbers from the health board and see what transpires there before we make a decision. That's my own opinion.
Ultimately, this issue should have gone before our community safety and well-being advisory committee. The reason we have an advisory committee for community safety and well-being is in that process, they're supposed to receive groups like the one that came before us so that they can assess if it is an issue in East Ferris. And so basically that is a committee that we really need to get up and running again.
The presentation came from a different county, came from.
No, don't wear makeup, just use this. Councillor Champagne,
It's the,
we are getting noise interference, Councillor Champagne.
Yeah, I hardly hear nothing you're saying. I've been taping this and you'll see what I mean. I hear people's lips are moving and I can't hear a thing.
Okay,
You guys are talking right now. I can't hear you.
Okay,
I heard that.
so on that note, I think that in the future, any issue,
like that is the purpose of a community safety and well-being committee. Okay, and in every community, North Bay, wherever they exist, is to be able to receive issues and examine the issue. From the Police Services Board, when this came up, these indicators, and I'd like to read them because I know we're downplaying them, but they are very specific. Okay, the numbers, let me read the numbers, okay? And whereas council understands that East Ferris is not immune to IPV, intimate partner violence, and that community calls to the Ontario Provincial Police related to domestic disputes, which increased from 14, and these are their calls for service, 14 in 2000. Okay, during that, it was significant in our reports, and there was significant discussion at our table, Police Services Board with the Ontario Provincial Police on this particular issue.
I think it's fairly disputed. I think there was a little murky.
No, they're very clear on what were the issues. If you're at that table, they basically define what is a dispute. There is elder abuse, child abuse, partner disputes, and so basically in our community, they were more so partner and family disputes. So, and then the other point that I would like to make is that they've now decreased, okay, since the pandemic, but they're still at 21. It is one of our highest calls for service in our community, okay? 21. And then the other issues, if you look at our statistics closely, if you read these reports, they're very detailed. All the calls are there, okay? And then the provincial police can define them and provide all of the information. There's been an increase. It's fine, one, I know, but still, one is too many. Sexual interference and sexual assaults. We don't want to scare our citizens, and they're not major, they're minor. But what I am saying is that, as you pointed out, Councillor Kelly, one is too many. And I understand that there's a political issue, and that's what you're taking objection to. But every issue that we vote on, and that corresponds, all of the items there are politically driven. They're all politically driven, okay? So for you to take objection on this one, when we have indicators that are very strong, I say to you, I'm not against you going to the LC, and I understand that that's a good recommendation. And we won't table the resolution because we will not have sufficient council members to support this resolution. That basically all it's saying in this resolution is let's put this issue forward to our community safety and well-being advisory committee to look at it so that they can disseminate information and provide tools and information to our citizens. What's wrong? What is wrong with that, I say to you? But on that note, I've made my point, my comments. I appreciate the opportunity to have spoken to it. I think this resolution is a very good resolution. And I'd say it's a mistake for us not to pass it. But that said, we'll put it forward. I would suggest then that we just leave it with one of our council members that is the chair of the health unit, and that you bring it forward for further discussion.
But what's wrong with it is that now you're taking something from Renfrew, missing and East Ferris, and you're blending. So I don't think that, let's, hold on.
You're right, no, you're right, Councilor Dan, sorry.
You're blending three different. How do you say it? People's opinions to stats to. I'd like to sit down with you and explain some of the stats, how sometimes these stats actually go. Like even in November 2020, he said, well, we collect all these stats. Well, there was a patrol hourly right here, 534 hours and a half. The OPP actually tracked how many hours they were in our roads for East Ferris. There's some stats here that they didn't even have domestic violence. They had family disputes. And again, family disputes are different than actual charges. Sexual assault charges. Well, you take sexual assault and sexual invitation. Sometimes they're double up the charges. So you may look at it and say, well, there's an increase. Well, no, it's one person was charged with multiple charges. So as I said, the numbers are not accurate. They're blended.
Yes.
And I'm just saying is, yes, there is a political motivation here for other people. This does not reflect the East Ferris. talking about the provincial, federal and municipal, I always believe when I'm sitting here, municipal issues.
Yes.
What's going on in East Ferris? I don't think this is an accurate reflection to what's going on in East Ferris. So that's what I'm saying to you.
So, yeah, wait, Deputy Mayor Riatis.
But can you plan it, right? So here was Easter. There was a domestic violence in my neighborhood. Right? So we don't,
I have
we
no-
can't just
I have
sort
no
of,
knowledge of that.
we can't plan it, right? So it's not that we're doing something to say it's not happening, it's not an Easter thing.
Never
But
said,
it is saying, why don't we just bring it forward to the Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee so they can look at getting information to people in case it does happen. So it's being preventative, not trying to.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I agree with Councilor Trahan, and because of his vast experience with these types of disputes, he's the person I listen to when it comes to this stuff. And Councilor Champagne sitting on the health board, he said the health board is already aware of what's going on. And I said the political issue, I could read you an excerpt. Would you like me to read you a little bit? I mean, I will if you want.
Sure.
It's common knowledge, showing no political courage to improve things in Ontario. That's how it starts out. Our provincial government recently voted down Bill 5, the Stopping of Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act, that would hold elected officials accountable for sexual harassment and refuse to acknowledge intimate partner violence as an epidemic after recommendations from our coroner's inquest. I mean, really, that's a political opinion. All opinion aside. So I'm in favor of putting it back to the health board as Councilor Champagne recommended and leaving this. I'm not saying no to it. I'm saying leave it in abeyance and we'll come back. That's my opinion. I don't know.
I would say that, I don't think we Councilor Champagne.
yeah, all I'm saying is that this is waiting for one more meeting to get this done. If it's going to get done, it's not going to harm anything. The only comment that I made, and you have to agree with me, when I asked the question if the health unit was on board, they said yes. There was somebody at the health unit getting a motion prepared, and we didn't know nothing about it. So just by that comment alone, I don't feel good about the stats in our municipality or Nipissing. And then let the health unit do their research, their recommendation. If they come back and this is what they want to do, I won't speak for myself. I can't speak for the rest of the board, but a recommendation will come out of it, yay or nay.
Thank you.
I would, final comment, maybe to say though, as we have
Community Safety and Wellbeing Advisory Committee, truly, it should have gone there. They should have reached out to the health unit or whomever and said, this is an issue for you. If it had flowed properly, that's how it should have flowed, but it did not. So here we are, and now we'll let it go its way, and we'll revisit it in the future. And I encourage you to read the resolution. I get a sense that not all council members have, because it is not mixing in Renfrew. It is strictly based on, as Deputy Mayor Ruakis pointed out, East Ferris. And so it is for us, and it is about making sure that our citizens are informed and aware. That said, thank you very much, Councilor Tucker.
Just a final
comment.
Again, we're debating on an issue that's politically driven, and we're putting divide amongst ourselves, which is disheartening to me, because I agree, one issue is bad enough, but to have us arguing over yay or nay is wrong until we get the right facts, the right figures, and the right people on board. That's all I'm saying.
Wrong.
Okay.
Bon. I do agree, it's an unfortunate discussion in a way, and as I said, if maybe we had gone the proper way, we would have in this discussion. But that said, I don't want us in any way to discount the reports from the Ontario Provincial Police that point out hours of service for calls for domestic dispute.
Okay.
That was 46, our largest indicator, our biggest jump. And so for you to discount that, coming from the Ontario Provincial Police, and I appreciate that there could be something else.
Where there could be, it's not a clear, it's a corroborating statistic, and that's what we did put in here, corroborating evidence, okay? On that note, we close the discussion. We
But
move-
yeah, but you can't just sit finish saying, but you just finished by saying the last two topics, the last two comments. And I have to sit there and read it.
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
No, it is murky. There is, the information did come from Renfrew. We did get some information from Nipissing, and then we also got your information with regards to OPP. So yes, it is murky. It is. So you can't dispute that. So that's one thing there that you cannot, don't throw back at my face. So that's how it goes. Your last two comments were a little heavy there, but you know what, like you said, drop it, let it go into the health unit, let it bring it back, and then we'll bring it back for another debate. It's not a problem.
Thank you for that final word.
You're welcome.
Okay, okay, so we move now to item E, which is resolution, town of Petrolia support for the resolution for licensed home childcare.
Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Mayor Akers. Council of the Municipality of East Paris supports the town of Petrolia's resolution regarding the childcare shortage.
In favor?
Councillor Champagne? Wait, okay, thank you. Approval of accounts payable.
And a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Kelly and Trahan. Council approve the general accounts for the municipality of East Ferris as indicated in the check register dated August 8th, 2023 in the amount of $1,394,584.31.
All in favor? Okay, thank you so much.
So we're going to go into camera, in camera session.
And a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Kelly. This meeting proceeds to in-camera session at 8:25 PM under section 239, subsection 2K of the Municipal Act. In order to address matters pertaining to a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instructions to be any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or behalf of the municipality or local board.
In favor? Councillor Champagne? Okay, so it's all right, we have.
Rick, can you hear us?
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Why was it?